The losses continue to pile up for the Chicago Bulls, but that is a good sign. But Modest also shines in this game against the Charlotte Hornets, and we're going to get into that right after this. The Chicago Bulls dropped their 10th straight game against the Charlotte Hornets, and there was one bright spot to take out of this game, and this was the debut for Coby White on the Charlotte Hornets against the Chicago Bulls at the United Center. But one bright spot out of this game, and that was Modest Buzelis. And then we're going to get a little bit into the draft lottery and kind of the numbers that are looking at that. But 10 straight losses here for the Chicago Bulls, and it doesn't surprise me. We've been riddled with injuries, and looking at this game, Modest Buzelis was the only one that really looked good. You had Gershon Yabusele, obviously, 11 points, 3 for 8 shooting, 3 for 7 from 3, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals. Nothing too insane. Patrick Williams, 11 points, 4 6 shooting. Efficient night, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 turnovers, though. And then you have Isaac Okoro. Hasn't been shooting the ball of late. He's 1 of 6 from the field that night. And then you got Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey has really been kind of struggling ever since coming back from this injury. This game, he had 8 points on 3 of 11 shooting, 0-2 from 3, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 turnovers, and 2 steals. So, looking at this, Josh Giddey, I think there's something up with the injury, or something's kind of bothering him, because this isn't the Josh Giddey that we've seen in the past prior to this injury. And I think the Bulls could possibly look at shutting him down for the rest of the season just to get him healthy and to make sure he's healthy for next season, because I know and I feel like the Chicago Bulls are going to have some big moves coming here in the offseason to kind of make this team bulk up and be better than it is right now. I don't think this is going to be a forever tank or a multi-year tank. I do think that the Chicago Bulls are going to be looking at competing next year and trying to make the playoffs again. So I think this is just a tank here for the rest of the year. They're on a 10-game losing streak, and I think the Chicago Bulls could potentially look at shutting Josh Giddey down. One key point from this Charlotte Hornets game was as well Leonard Miller. Only played 5 minutes. We got him in the Minnesota trade from Iowa Sumo, and he had 5 points on 2 shooting, 2 rebounds. He had 1 turnover and 1 block. We're not really going to see too many Leonard Miller minutes, but in limited minutes here for this game for him, he played really well. And then you have Nick Richards, 6 points, 2 of 5 shooting, 5 rebounds. Lachlan Olbrich got some minutes. He got 3. Didn't really produce too much in those 3 minutes. Then you got Colin Sexton, 28 minutes played, 10 points, 4 of 9 shooting. Trey Jones, 20 minutes, 3 points, 1 for 7 shooting from the field. And Rob Dillingham, 23 minutes, 6 points, 2 of 9 shooting, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 turnovers. So a lot of people on this Bulls roster had really, really poor shooting nights. We've been riddled with injuries. We have Anthony Simons, we have Jalen Smith, Zach Collins, the list goes on. So it's going to be really hard to win games, especially like this. But if you're looking at the Bulls and how they've kind of gone over these past 10 games, you don't really want to see them win games. You want their draft lottery to kind of pick up. And then Modest Buzelis this game, the highlight of this game, his career high, 32 points on 13 and 19 shooting, 6 from 11 from 3, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. This is the most efficient I've ever seen Modest shoot the ball, so this is really good here to see as a Chicago Bulls fan. And him shooting the 3-ball at a high volume, we've wanted him to develop that in the past, and we saw flashes here this game of how he could really shoot the 3-ball against NBA competition. On the season, he's averaging 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 47% from the field, so really not too bad of stats. And he did lead the game in scoring for the Chicago Bulls with 32, obviously. He did lead the game total on both sides for scoring, 32 points from Modest, and then on the other side for Charlotte, 23 points from Brandon Miller. On rebounds, Modest was tied here for high in the game, 7 rebounds, and then you had Josh Giddey with assists, 7 from LaMelo Ball, and then you had 5 from Josh Giddey. It was a bit of a stinker game, but in his second season here with the Chicago Bulls, Modest Buzelis has really improved from going from 8 points per game to 15 points. And I've seen, you see a significant jump. I think his role has really increased this year, and I do think that Billy still has yet to really use Modest the right way. I do think there have been games where Billy has played Patrick Williams more than Modest Buzelis, even I know Modest can get in foul trouble sometimes, but I do not think that Patrick Williams should be getting more minutes than Modest Buzelis. But moving on to a little bit of the draft lottery, you look at the Chicago Bulls percentage and their chances of getting the number 1 pick. Bulls have a 4.5% chance of getting the number 1 pick, and then a 20% chance of getting a top 4 pick. I would love for the Chicago Bulls to get a top 4 pick, and with how the Chicago Bulls have been playing basketball, there could be potential for them to really move up in this draft and potential for the number 1 pick. If we could get the number 1 pick, I would love for the Chicago Bulls to pick AJ Devanza. AJ Devanza would be a huge steal here for the Chicago Bulls, especially alongside Modest and Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey, Modest, and AJ Devanza could be the future for the Chicago Bulls if that was ever in a realm of possibility for the Chicago Bulls. But the odds of that happening are very low. And the next game that the Chicago Bulls play is actually against the Portland Trailblazers. So that is a game that we do want to lose. We do want the Portland Trailblazers to move up in the standings and make the playoffs. So seeing the Chicago Bulls go on an 11-game losing streak and add to their streak is a possibility, and we all should be expecting it, and we all should be wanting it, especially if we want the Bulls to be moving up in this lottery. But that's going to be all for this one. Let me know what you guys thought about the Charlotte game and what you think the Bulls could do here, and if you do think the Bulls can move up in the lottery. But that's going to be all for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.